missiles at the Everglades. If you want to know more, watch, because it's coming up next.
Stay tuned.
Dog kennels. Oh, so this was part of the dog kennels over there. And then right here, Missile Assembly and Warhead Building.
You would have one missile in that pad behind you, second missile in the other pad, third missile. You would have had a set of rails here that would allow, and 3 more missiles would have been inside, that would allow the soldiers, 2 soldiers, to move a missile in and out and rotate them. And they had to do relatively frequently because of the humidity was affecting the electrical components. Now, 1 missile would always be on 82-degree angle, 24/7 alert. The initial booster on this missile fires for 3.4 seconds and then drops off. That you don't want it landed on top of the base. The main booster fires for 29 seconds, so the missile is under power for only 32.4 seconds. However, 3/4 of a mile in a second, 40 miles in a minute, reaches a speed of 3.5 times the speed of sound, over 2,700 miles per hour, and an altitude of over 150,000 feet. However, this missile is a defensive anti-aircraft weapon. It only has a range of 90 miles. It also had 2 different types of warheads. A conventional high explosive 300 pounds conventional weapon, and the W-31, which was a variable 2 to 40 kiloton nuclear warhead, 2.5 times of the strength of the bomb dropped in Hiroshima.
Woo.
The theory was that if you had 1 or 2 bombers coming, you would utilize the high explosive. By the way, this was not an impact missile, but a proximity exploding missile. If you had a fleet of bombers, and there were 42 IL-28 supersonic nuclear bombers in Cuba, then you would utilize the nuclear warhead to explode above them, compress their planes into the ground. That's the theory, okay? Now, come on. 41 feet long, solid fuel.
41 feet long, solid fuel.
I'll give you a Google view of what this looked like when the base was operational. You would have had, as I mentioned to you, 3 missiles outside each barn. You would have had a rail system that you can see there that would allow you to rotate the missiles. Right now, you're in barn C. A and B are closed. What you'll see is just a closed barn. This is the only one that has anything in it. Now, when you came inside, you passed the kennels and you passed the assembly building. There are 2 missiles actually in here. The one behind you came from Addison, Alabama, refurbished by the George T. Baker Aviation School. Behind you, you see how the missiles really would have come in their components, and then they would have been assembled here in the assembly building and then taken to one of the 3 barns.
Oh.
Now, the barrel pit exists because the other 209 Hercules missile bases around the United States had underground storage. But here in Alaska, you had to build above ground because of the water table. So basically, you took the dirt out of here, you filled it, and then you built it. Right now, if you go down the turnpike, you'll still see barrel pits. They dig them down to 90 feet, they sell the fill, and when they're finished, they go that deep, then they sell the land around it as waterfront properties. What a deal.
Wow.
Now, the nice long road you drove in that you thought would never end,
Yes.
you passed the pink building on your left. That was actually the barracks, that's where the soldiers lived, that's where the PX was, and the radars were behind that facility. This missile is radar fired, radar guided, and radar exploded. But the missile had to be, or the radars had to be at least 1,000 yards away, otherwise when it was launched it could not acquire it because of the speed of the missile. Okay? Now, come. Let me have the young lady here fire an Hercules missile.
Ooh, I'm gonna fire in the missile.
Now, all the equipment on this side is maintenance equipment, and here we have 2 firing boards.
I'm gonna do it, guys. I'm gonna do it.
Exactly right. Now, of course, you gotta have the red switch. So what I want you to do is take this and turn it once this way. It's hard, so put some strength behind it. There you go. Okay, the missile now is in firing position. Okay. Lift the red. Okay, now in a moment, I'm going to ask you to place your finger on it. I'm going to do a countdown from 3, and then I'm going to say fire, and I want you to push it forward. Okay?
Okay.
Did I tell you to put your finger there yet?
No, not yet.
Put your finger there. So we're going to go 3, 2, 1, fire. You just launched a Nike Hercules missile. Thank you. Actually, what you did is you gave the command to the radar to fire the missile because it's radar fire. Now, you notice this, it has a single key. In all the other missiles you've ever seen fired in TV or in movies, they're like 8 to 10 feet apart, and you've got 2 different sets of keys that have to be turned at the same time to fire the missile. Those are intercontinental ballistic missiles, 3,000 to 5,000 mile range, and those are attack missiles. This is a defensive weapon. You only have needed 1 key in order to get this missile to fire. There were other procedures that needed to be followed as well, but it would have been 1 key. Okay? I'm sorry?
Because it's defensive?
Because it's defensive, exactly right. Now, this base was open from 1965 until 1979. The last 2 years of the base, this is a little trivia for you. This was considered to be a combat battalion. The first combat battalion that women served in was here in Everglades National Park, and for the last 2 years they were training European missileers on how to use the Nike Hercules missile. But this was the first combat battalion that women ever served in.
And what year was that?
77 to 79. Now in 82, the park took over the facility, and they began doing all the reclamation work, including what I mentioned to you about draining the barrel. Okay?
So who gave the order?
That would have been, see, the unique part about this facility is that the first concept of this and of the Nike was that the attack would come over the polar ice cap. So you would have had plenty of time, first of all, to send our fighter planes in to try to take care of the bombers, and this would have been the last resort weapon. So you would have had time to make those decisions. Right now, you're 160 miles from Cuba. Key West is 90 miles. In the 70s, 80s, and 90s, there were Cuban defectors that flew their MiGs into Homestead Air Force Base, and the base knew they were there when the tires hit the tarmac.
Wow.
So this then becomes a first utilization weapon if you even have a chance to do that. If you have to use one of the nukes, you're pretty much taking one from the team if you live south of Orlando. But if that were to happen, nuclear war would start anyway. And
right.
Here you've got Key West Air Naval Station, Homestead Air Force Base, Miami International Airport, Turkey Point Nuclear Plant, and MacDill's and Patrick Air Force Base that all would have been targets for nukes. So basically, you would have been incinerated anyway.
Yeah.
But the closest up to now that we've ever come to nuclear war was the Cuban Missile Crisis, and there were a number of incidents that took place. One of them was when the SAM missile battery fired an SA-2 and killed Major Anderson and destroyed his plane. That battery was not authorized to fire. They did it on their own. There were 2 Russian nuclear submarines with nuclear weapons around Cuba that were being shadowed by some of our destroyers, and they were dropping these canisters that sounded like big charges, attempting to get them to surface. Those Russian commanders had orders to fire their weapons if attacked. Fortunately, saner heads prevailed once again, and we're still here able to have this conversation. And there were a number of other incidents that could have led to nuclear war, but we're just fortunate.
Yes.
Guys, walk around,
Thank
touch
you.
anything, take pictures.
Thank you.
Anything. Not that you've ever been shy before, but
Nope.
No. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Appreciate
you very
it.
much.
My
Thank
pleasure.
You're
you.
an encyclopedia of
Absolutely.
information.
For sure.
Thank you.
One was here, one was here, and one was here. Key West is 90 miles away from Havana. Matter of fact, there used to be a ferry that ran between Havana and Key West, and you could take your car and go to the United States or come back to Cuba. In fact, my father used to own a business in Cuba, and we brought back 6 trucks on the ferry. So basically, that was kind of what was taking place. Cuba used to be a weekend resort for all of the East Coast, and particularly the southern part of the U.S. Beautiful beaches, gambling, and there was all kinds of stuff going on. So basically, it was a weekend retreat. You know, a lot of people would come on vacation in Cuba. And the economy was relatively strong. At the time that Castro took over, a peso was worth $1.
Yes.
So it was a completely different type of situation. All right, guys, enjoy.
Thank you so much.
My pleasure.
Here we are at the MISSLE. How cool is that? Let me take you over here, and you're going to see 3 launch pads. 1, 2, and 3. And of course, you got the rail system that the rocket was actually pushed out. There's 3 of them. It says right here, right where we're standing. See the launch crewman? Right where we're standing right now. Look at this, 5-ton nuclear missiles. A rail system was used to slide the missiles to the steel launch pad, where hydraulics were used to push the missiles to 87 degrees and ready for launch. 3 missiles could be set up on the launch pad to fire, one after the other. How awesome is that? And we're standing right here, where all that took place, and Jolly's standing right there. And the rail system, as you could see, the launch pads. Hard to believe in what took place here. So let's go on inside. We'll take a closer look at the MISSLE.
We traced one of the VIN numbers back to one of the soldiers, and he was living in Homestead. Now the statute of limitation had passed, and he
Actually, the launch area right here. Oh my God. Jolly, my hands are on the launch controls. What do you think of that?
Don't push the button.
Literally on the launch.
Don't do it.
Don't do it?
No.
I think I already did. I meant seriously. It makes you wonder whose hands were on this and ready to do it. It's unreal.
Yeah.
It is unbelievable. Look at this, 1962 to 1979. I meant,
I remember having a phone like that.
oh my gosh. That's the
Communications.
communications right there.
That's maybe part of the reason what was said.
And I didn't realize that we were used to that fence. Then cubicles. Well, other than
Whose hands were on this? Unbelievable. I can't explain it.
So this is the way that the missiles would have got here, and then they assembled them over there at that other building.
Yeah.
Very interesting.
Amazing.
Let's go check this out. Oh, okay. So this part right here went on the back of this. Very interesting.
It's so interesting. Feel how heavy this is. Come on.
Yeah, that's solid.
It's amazing.
And this would have been the mess hall and barracks. It is currently offices for the scientists here at Everglades National Park. And the volunteers said that there were between 75 and 150 people that lived in here at the time when this was running. They had nukes for 9 years here. And it was also the headquarters.
Okay, this is another one of 3 of the missile buildings right here, and you can see there's actually 3 launch pads right there. So he told us there's nothing in those.
Here's the 3rd building right here. Once again, nothing in it, but the building still stands.
Alright guys, we hope you enjoyed this little trip over here to see the Nike missile. And I thought it was an awesome time over here. This is kind of like a highlight for me. So, if you get a chance at Everglades National Park, stop in and see it. These volunteers are awesome too.
And it's free to come and look at it.
And
just like Smiles.
Yeah, exactly what I was going to say to you. See you on the next one, guys. Take care.